I'm sure we've all had this fantasy before. If I was given the opportunity to walk right up to Nintendo and tell them what game they should make next, well, I'd say, oh, for the love of all that is good in the world, please, please don't make a Pokemon game this year. Please, they need more development time. This game is so undercooked I can still hear it mooing. Or something along those lines. But for real, how often have you thought of an awesome idea for a game or a feature that would be perfect for one of Nintendo's established franchises? And how many times have you had an idea for a sequel or new spin-off entry for that series that would be such a big shakeup to an already established formula?
You know, it's funny you should ask. It's probably happened to me hundreds of times. I actually just made a video on my channel where I listed 50. But of course, you know that. You were in it. You even shared a couple pitches yourself. So really, I guess that video's only got like 40-something for me personally. Maybe I'll make up for that by helping you out here. I mean, I'm sure I've got 3 or so ideas that I could, Oh, wait. That was a rhetorical question, wasn't it?
I mean, it was, but you're on. So, dear viewer, let's take a journey and explore 10 wacky pitches for Nintendo's franchises, and let me know in the comments if you've ever thought of any similar ideas. Some of these ideas might seem like a natural progression of a Nintendo IP, but with a twist, and some of these may sound off the wall and crazy enough that they just might work. Who knows if or when Nintendo will actually make these games? I'm not saying they're gonna do it, but this is what they should do. I'm relatively confident that Nintendo's currently working on their own action rhythm game, something that's in a way their answer to Hi-Fi Rush. We already know they're willing to take established franchises and make a wacky rhythm action spin-off. Just look at Cadence of Hyrule. So I'm almost willing to bet, for a 3D action-adventure rhythm game, we'll see it be some form of a Splatoon spin-off. Think of it, Splatoon has quickly risen to be one of Nintendo's most popular franchises. I think it would be perfectly fine for it to have a spin-off or two. And when it comes to Nintendo music that you just want to beat up some baddies to, well, there's stiff competition, but Splatoon's music always delivers. This spin-off title would take some obvious inspirations from Hi-Fi Rush, but still keeping the overall Splatoon tone and aesthetic. I'm picturing the main character would be a highly skilled assassin-like creature. They prefer to use weapons up close and personal as opposed to blasting foes from across the field. The gameplay would be like the same single-player campaign goodness we've seen from the Splatoon entries, but a lot more focus on up-close combat utilizing the beat from the level's music wherever possible.
Yoshi's Dino Dynasty. Yoshi has been a staple Nintendo mascot for well over 30 years now. And yet, despite having a consistently supported solo series of adventure games and the odd spin-off here and there, never before has Yoshi had a standalone 3D outing. I, and I'm sure many others, want a 3D Yoshi platformer to come about as soon as possible. And my pitch for how to make this inaugural foray more special than simply Yoshi's Island but 3D now is to do what Donkey Kong did back on the N64 and introduce several other playable pals to the player's repertoire. And there's no shortage of pre-existing Mario Universe Dino characters to do this with. Birdo, Glydon, Plessy, Dory, Resner. Seriously, Nintendo? Combine the design philosophy and visual appeal of Mario Odyssey with one of the younger demographic's favorite obsessions, dinosaurs. It'd print money guaranteed.
A lot of people have been yearning for a Paper Mario game that goes back to its RPG roots like in the original and Thousand Year Door. However, an idea I've seen talked about more and more is to bring a different IP into the mix, in the same art style and direction as the original Paper Marios. There have been a few fan-made Paper Zelda concepts that prove this idea has an audience. And don't get me wrong, if Nintendo ever did make a Paper Zelda game, I'm sure it would sell millions just based on the name alone. However, I'd like to redirect that fan passion to a different IP, Paper Wario. It would bring the same fun and ridiculousness of the old school Paper Mario games, with a plot and setting that could introduce so many new elements into the extended Mario lore, without directly affecting Mario and the strict image he's now forced into. See, I don't want to completely sidestep the IP of Paper Mario and its history, and infamy that goes along with it. A new IP not attached to Mario would be great, don't get me wrong, but imagine if the side series, but that's besides the point, imagine if this side series was still tangibly related to the characters introduced throughout the years. Imagine how fun it would be to see the same characters and reference the same locations, but from a whole different angle. Wario is generally a very self-referential series, be it in the Wario Land or WarioWare games, so I think the writers could have a lot of fun with this one. Gameplay would be very akin to PM64 64 and PMTTYD, with partners and a badge system and witty dialogue, the whole shebang. It's everything old-school Paper Mario fans have been asking for, but with some added self-referential humor about the series' history. Might seem a bit inside jokey for some fans, but as long as these jokes are not so in your face and more so appropriately peppered in, I think it'd be a great game that any RPG fan can get behind. Star Fox Command. It's one of those games that's not really talked about much these days. The main thing it's remembered for, though, is how it's canonically the last game on the Star Fox timeline, and it broke off the series into 9 drastically different endings depending on how you did in the campaign. But if you use some creative liberties, those endings can be summarized into just 3 branching timelines. I'd like to propose a new take on the Star Fox franchise, experimenting again with the hybrid of on-foot missions as well as on-rail shooting and intergalactic dogfights, but the hook is that you play in 3 separate timelines, trying to figure out how to reconnect them all together into one, or else the world as we know it would cease to exist, or something to that effect. Lots of time travel and dimension hopping shenanigans ensue. And yeah, this has been done to death in recent years, but it's the first time Nintendo's doing it. You play as one of each timeline's main protagonists, and meet the different versions of yourselves in the other 2. Crystal, as the bounty hunter in the Star Fox Return timeline, Marcus, Fox's son in the Goodbye Fox timeline, Falco with his own team in the Pigma's Revenge timeline. This one's pretty out there, but I legit think it has legs. I see this as a great way of revitalizing the Star Fox franchise. Doesn't quite retcon older games, but it could also help make some sense of the convoluted timeline, letting the next generation of the Star Fox crew shine for possible sequels, bringing in the next generation of fans. A lot of fans predict the next full-on Star Fox game will need to fundamentally change something about the gameplay to really bring the series into the modern age. I can imagine something like this working, with segments that harken back to the on-rail system, and segments that are more open-world exploration. Imagine this on Nintendo's next console with more powerful hardware. Exploring the galaxy and its split timelines could be truly incredible.
Remember Amiibo? They don't really get dragged out of the mothballs much nowadays unless it's for the last remaining Smash Fighters or the odd tentpole Mario, Zelda, or Splatoon release. And even then, they have very little in the way of nifty or enticing game integration and are little more than somewhat high-quality statuettes. Many people believe it's a wasted opportunity that Nintendo doesn't have a central, all-Amiibo-compatible game. At this point though, I feel the sheer amount of Amiibo out in the wild, including several third-party licensees, makes a fully featured adventure game akin to Skylanders impractical if not impossible. So here's my idea of a compromise. Make free download software that acts as a high-quality virtual museum with visuals akin to Clubhouse games. It'd be like a grand-scale version of a Smash Bros. Trophy gallery with all sorts of trivia and details about each Amiibo you scan in. It'd also be cool if it came with some innocuous time wasters that don't require a ton of extra development time when it comes to integrating every existing and future figure, like virtual chess, a diorama picture-taking mode, or even a simple competitive card game, wherein there are default cards with unalterable stats, while cards based on your registered Amiibo can be leveled up and customized. Just something to make Amiibo collecting feel like a worthwhile investment within the Nintendo ecosystem. Also, make Uncle Amiibo from Mario Odyssey the game's mascot. He deserves to join Yoshi and Wario's ranks as a Mario character who grows into a mascot for his own series.
It's kind of underrated how big of a seller Ring Fit Adventure was. The question is, will Nintendo make a straight-up sequel that expands on the features we've already seen? Or will their next fitness-based game be something completely different in presentation, like how Ring Fit was to Wii Fit? Well, I'm team sequel. Nintendo will probably bundle in a new fitness-based accessory, like, I don't know, a resistance band that can measure how far it's being stretched or something like that. If they can manage that using just the technology in a Joy-Con, I will be thoroughly impressed. Anyways, what's the hook? Yeah, it's a bigger world with new levels and enemies, plenty of new moves to use, exercises to perform, but what makes this sequel special? Cooperative multiplayer. Picture a more open-ish, large branching world. With huge enemies to take down, you could go it alone and have a similar experience like you did in the first Ring Fit, or go with a buddy, either via online or local co-op if they have the necessary accessories. What I'm picturing is kind of like a Monster Hunter experience where each challenge path is a different day's workout. You and your player 2 could schedule what days to tackle what. Let's do the Smoldering Hills on Monday. It's looking like mostly a chest day route. We can try the Icy Tundra on Wednesday to focus on core strength. And here's a benefit you might not have considered. Cooperative multiplayer is an out-of-game method to reinforce consistency with working out. You have someone else relying on you to complete this run, you better not flake. Plus, imagine the gameplay options. There could be a scoring system for whoever did the workout better, adding some healthy competition. Maybe small healing upgrades or something if you both attack in perfect harmony. Maybe to add to the competitive aspect, each player could get a secret task sent to them on their phone via an app, and then they would have to specifically do a certain exercise that may make the route more difficult, but will give your profile more points if completed successfully. I'm just spitballing ideas, but imagine your next Ring Fit session with a friend could make a samey experience feel completely different. And I'm just proposing 2-player, but why stop there? 3 players? 4? Theoretically, it could be a whole MMO raid battle of players against certain levels. I propose start with 2 and see if this idea actually has legs, and arms, and chest, and back, and core, and yoga, and calves, and triceps, and glutamus maximus, and... Now this is one of my ideas that makes so much sense in my head, but at the same time feels like it may fall apart in practice. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Anyways, picture Mario Party, but on your phone, and you can exit the app while other players are taking their turns. After every player finishes their move, and it's time for the minigame, you'll get a notification to join together and play. And when all 4 players are ready, they'll all be connected live, with optional group call voice chat, to complete whatever said minigame, playing it together online. Yes, I'm proposing a Mario Party game where it could take literal days to finish your game with friends. This model would completely stink if played with the randos. You might need to add mandatory timers or something, but the ideal way to play this version is with some Discord friends that you trust will get to it eventually. I don't know, maybe the whole fun of Mario Party is that one plugged in and intense session, but I feel like this idea is at least worth it as an experiment. Hey, if Nintendo doesn't do this, any indie devs watching, I would love to be part of your team to bring this into reality as a legally distinct mobile party. My whole impetus for this concept was how so many people will get up after rolling the dice on their turn and the board. They'll grab a soda and chill on their phone until they have to be engaged again. So why not take that experience to its logical extreme? Minigames would be based on touchscreen controls and simple motion controls and other common smartphone game mechanics. This pitch is something that I don't necessarily think would evolve the Mario Party franchise, but I think it would make for a very interesting Mario Party experience.
Nintendo Land Cruise Control. Nintendo Land on Wii U had an incredibly appealing premise. A theme park based around Nintendo IPs with attractions that double as proof-of-concept minigames? I'm sold. It remains to be seen as to whether or not Nintendo will ever release a controller in need of such a proof-of-concept style release anytime soon, but whether they do or don't, I think the Nintendo Land idea tracks well with any minigame compilation. Nintendo Switch Sports goes to show that Nintendo is okay with releasing this type of game without having something in need of proving, so why not Nintendo Land 2? I gave my pitch for this game the subtitle of Cruise Control because I think it'd be nifty if a Nintendo Land game took place on a cruise ship, which not only sails from location to location, each focusing on different modes like online, ranked, local, leaderboards, or whatever else, maybe even being different theme park locations with different minigames on them. But the cruise ship could also double as a more interesting and lived-in hub compared to the mostly empty cul-de-sac of the original. All the main attractions could reside in logical decks, rooms, and levels, like a Star Fox shooting gallery game at the arcade, a Kirby gourmet race at the buffet, a codenamed Steam pipe maze in the boiler room. You get the idea, right? Also, I love a good double entendre in a Nintendo game title. Cruise Control. Cruise because it's a cruise ship, control because Nintendo Land is about unique control gimmicks. It's like, yeah, just,
Remember Pokemon Conquest? It's a really interesting concept that was just unfortunately released at the wrong time in the wrong place. Also, just a confusing crossover for Western fans, bringing the world of Pokemon into the lesser-known series of Nobunaga's Ambition, having different warlords represented as Pokemon trainers using their abilities to take over territories and gain total control over the region. This was an extremely creative turn-based strategy RPG, but unfortunately, due to low sales, I doubt we'll ever get a direct sequel or a fully realized remake. But what about a spiritual successor? Picture, if you will, all of the lords and recognizable characters from Fire Emblem were trainers in this new Pokemon Conquest-like game, each one associated with their favorite Pokemon and having fun synergy costumes as the plot progressed. Somehow, they were all transported into this mysterious world, not fully remembering their past, and their memories changed to think all battles are fought with Pokemon, this is how it's always been. Yeah, this setup may be kind of dumb, but that never stopped Fire Emblem or Pokemon before. And as a common theme in this video, imagine the gameplay. Similar grid-based combat found in both series, giving each Pokemon 4 moves they can learn instead of just the 1 like in the original Conquest game, so adding some more strategy elements, plus a super move or a partner skill that the Pokemon can use depending on who's controlling it. Maybe a bit overcomplicated in the sense of needing to remember the whole Pokemon type advantage chart, but I think many fans would be intrigued about the concept of Pokemon battles played over a larger map, with some more fleshed out battle mechanics over the original Pokemon Conquest. But why am I specifically making this a crossover game when the gameplay is mostly controlling Pokemon with a few Fire Emblem character portraits popping up for certain attacks? I think the real fun would be seeing how these well-known and established Fire Emblem characters would adapt in this new setting. Fire Emblem Engage starts you with the premise of these 12 emblems representing the past games, and 7 bracelets added as DLC. Now, I'm not saying I agree those 19 characters, well, 20 if you count Delir, are the best representations for the main characters of the Fire Emblem series, but point is, there are 18 types in Pokemon. The original Conquest had 17 territories of the region warring against each other, no fairy type back in 2012. Imagine 18 of the Fire Emblem mascots as warlords in this new game. Other familiar faces from the series may be native to specific region, despite them not being in the same Fire Emblem game. I don't know. I think this would be a fun non-canon spin-off title for both Fire Emblem fans and Pokemon fans to dip their toes into. And as long as it releases not too close to either a mainline Fire Emblem or Pokemon title, I can see this niche game really growing into something bigger. I know I would play this, but what do you think? Is this a bad combo that wouldn't appeal to either series fans? Or would you give it a try? Let me know. For this last one, I want to take you on a journey. Imagine a Punch-Out game that's a direct sequel to Punch-Out on Wii. Max the world champion. He's successfully defended his title multiple times, but one day, a new boxer challenges him. This mysterious opponent has an otherworldly feel to them, but no matter, Max the greatest in the world. He can defeat any challenger. They step into the ring, and the new opponent promptly beats Mac without even breaking a sweat. Mac is so ashamed of this humiliating loss, so much so that he quits the world of boxing and backpacks across the world, searching for meaning in his now empty life. None of the other boxers can even come close to beating the new champion. In fact, within a few weeks, the sport becomes straight up boring to watch for the audience and for fans as a whole. The International Boxing League slowly disbands. No point competing anymore. There's no way anyone can possibly beat this new guy. They're probably not even human or something. No one can be that good. You're wrong. There is, well, there was, somebody that good. Doc makes it his mission to find where in the world little Mac could be, and years later, Doc Lewis finally finds him. Doc catches Mac up to the situation, and convinces him and his old rivals to make a new underground boxing league, to finally bring back the excitement of boxing to the ring, and maybe, just maybe, they can find someone strong enough to defeat this mysterious champion who's ruining all the fun. This game has 2 game styles in it. One is just Punch-Out, with more opponents and some new tricks here and there. There's a standard campaign if you want to skip the other stuff. Said other stuff is what you can do in between matches, if you'd like. You can relive memories as Doc Lewis as he travels the world going on a Telltale Game-style adventure, convincing the former boxers, aka your opponents, to start a new league. It would have a lot of dating sim-like elements and lots of different dialogue choices. Depending on who you speak to and what you tell them to try convincing them, that would dictate the order and difficulty of all of Little Mac's opponents in the campaign. This in-between makes the game as a whole incredibly replayable, and I can see Nintendo releasing DLC where you can play a campaign as the opponents, reliving the memories in between rounds to customize your own campaign route. I'm playing a build as King Hippo, whose second to last challenger is Glass Joe. It appeals to a very small niche, but I believe one of the main reasons people want a new Punch-Out is specifically because they love the characters, and this is the game that gives them more of a background outside of just the ring. This added optional content wouldn't appeal to everybody, but for those it does, it would grip them hard. I'm picturing the opponents to fight very similar to how they fought in Punch-Out Wii, with 1 or 2 new moves to switch up their patterns. However, instead of 13 foes, 3 circuits each with 4 fighters plus the champion, this game will have 22 foes, 4 circuits each with 5 fighters plus the champion plus the final boss. Many of those foes will be returning or reimagined fighters from Super Punch-Out, plus a few all-original new ones. Now, this final boss, who exactly is this guy? This otherworldly presence? Who's so good they completely took down the whole official boxing league? Well, this is just an idea, but I think it would be fun if we find out that the final boss is someone from the ARMS universe, maybe like an ancestor of Dr. Coyle or something. They were one of the first to experience the ARMS phenomenon on Earth, and they've been keeping their arms in disguise until the final battle. What their goal is, I don't know yet, but just imagine something like this.
Hey, sorry to interrupt, but I smelled some ARMS theory crafting going on here. I just have to butt in real quick. I actually think a twist like this would be incredibly well received by ARMS fans. However, I would suggest that this character be like a masked Marvel kind of character who hides their hair and their eyes specifically. Thusly, the reveal of their springy arms would come alongside the reveal of their spiral eyes and a fist on their head like the spokesman, Biff. See, characters who have the arms abilities also have spirals in their irises, and Biff in particular, there are just hundreds of theories about Biff. There are theories of him belonging to an alien race that gifted the population with arms, or being like a god of sorts who did the thing with the arms and the thing. The lore of ARMS is mostly speculative, it's mostly mysterious, but people definitely, they smell something is up with Biff. So fashioning this boss after Biff leaves many of the questions open-ended. Is he Biff himself? Is he a member of Biff's race? Is he like a Biff zealot follower who harnesses the ARMS ability somehow? And what does this imply about the ARMS world at large? Does this mean that ARMS take place in the future of our real world? Or did this boss come from the ARMS dimension or ARMS planet or something? It's just, One of the things I love most about ARMS is the very well thought out, well crafted, very interesting world, and the fact that it isn't entirely clear to us what exactly it is. But it is clear that they know what it is. They know, we don't, we want to figure it out, and hopefully, if they were to include an awesome ARMS reference like this in a future Punch-Out game that, has lore implications, they'd keep them relatively open-ended. But I don't know, what do you think about this idea?
Oh, I actually like that idea a lot more. Quite an intriguing hook. Maybe it can even be something where the final boss isn't trying to be the bad guy, but everyone is just perceiving them as that way?
Yeah, totally. I've got to say, I love this idea because it kind of gives Punch-Out, this great, albeit hard to sequelize legacy Nintendo IP, the opportunity to take a graceful exit while also encouraging its players to try the new and more expandable IP that is ARMS. No pun intended on the expandable thing.
Exactly. Who knows if Nintendo would ever want to pick up the Punch-Out IP again, but if they did, this would be such a good way to do the handoff. I kind of imagine the final battle of this new Punch-Out to just straight up be a match with the ARMS gameplay mechanics. Little Mac gets cursed or blessed or something, I don't know. Imagine if it's an empty stadium with the boxing ring in the middle acting simply as a cover obstacle. But maybe that would be too radical of a change. Completely changing the gameplay of Punch-Out for the final boss would definitely rub people the wrong way. But what do you think, dear viewer? I think this would be a pretty fun narrative twist, and give players a solid taste of what they're missing with the ARMS series, possibly bringing on many more fans and rolling out the red carpet for an ARMS 2. Phew! So what do you guys think of the list? Would you play any of these games if they were actually on the shelves? What are some wacky ideas that you've thought of for Nintendo games? Or rather, for video games as a whole? Let me know down in the comments below. And hey, call to action, if you like this video, please give it a like, maybe subscribe, and share it along with your friends who like theory crafting for game releases. Or better yet, confuse your family members who still call this guy Purple Luigi.
I call him Purple Luigi, but only because he asked me to.
And a huge thank you again to A Talking Sock. If you somehow haven't heard of him, you have no idea what you're missing. Go check out his channel and show some support. In fact, there are 50 more game pitches in the video on his channel, and yours truly may or may not have added some ideas of my own in there. Go check it out.
Thanks for the plug, what they should do. WTSD. I'm sorry, what should I call you?
Oh, you can call me Mo.
Mo? Cool, I'll call you that. What about everyone else? Do they call you Mo too?
Well, I guess so. I mean, it is my name, technically. So yeah, that's what they should do.
Oh, ho, ho, I see what you did there. That's brand commitment right there. Love it.
Thank you all so much for watching. On the road to 400 subs. Hope to see you all there. Until next time.